Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. So listen, there's a lot going on with DC right now, and it all hit the fans with a Boris Kitt Hollywood Reporter article that has really set up some interesting situations on social media. A hashtag saying fire James Gunn. So people are very, very angry about what's happening. But what's interesting about this truly kicked off about 2 or 3 hours before, because there was a Deadline.com article disputing what Variety had said. Variety had said a couple of days before that Black Adam lost $100 million. Now, Variety is famous, very famously attached to Warner Brothers, and sometimes promotes some of their propaganda, which is interesting. So a Deadline.com contradicted this article and said, instead of losing $100 million, Black Adam actually made $50 million. Not a big profit, but still a bit different than $100 million loss. Whatever way we look at it, Black Adam isn't a big hit for Warner Brothers or DC. But what's interesting about this was quote tweeted later on by The Rock saying, yes, this is true, and he's very excited with some of the plans that they've got. Because according to Deadline.com, in development is a Dr. Fate and a Hawkman spin-off shows. Either spin-off shows or movies. I'm not sure. Now comes in a few hours later this THR article from Boris Kitt, which claims that there will be no Black Adam 2, no Man of Steel 2. The Wonder Woman 3 script by Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns has been rejected, and Wonder Woman 3 isn't going forward. So very interesting. Now, the article says a lot of things that are very, very interesting, that prior to James Gunn and Peter Safran coming in, there were plans for a Justice League 2 and for Zack Snyder's cast to continue on in the DC universe or DCEU, whatever you want to call it. So for me, I'm reading between lines here. What is actually going on? Well, I think there is a civil war between Seven Bucks, which is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's production company that his ex-wife runs with her brother, Hiram Garcia. I believe there's a civil war going on between that company, The Rock, and James Gunn and Peter Safran at DC Studios. Yeah, we've gone backwards again. We're back with a civil war. We got rid of Emmerich. We got rid of Sarnoff to get rid of that toxic entity, and we're back with another toxic entity. There seems to be a bit of a civil war between, The Rock and James Gunn and Peter Safran. That's what it looks like. And so something very interesting is going on here. It's almost like The Rock is taking it upon himself to fight this so-called reboot, because that's what Boris Kitt is in fact saying in his Hollywood Reporter article, that, James Gunn and Peter Safran at DC Studios are planning a complete reboot. But even worse than that, what's even worse, because I actually want a reboot. I think we can't make DC successful with its existing franchise, and I think we just need to start again with something fresh. But I'm not too sure if James Gunn and Peter Safran are the ones to do it. Let's not forget, after Guardians 3, James Gunn was still going to work with DC with different projects as a writer-director anyway, and Peter Safran was already producing DC content, so it's not much of a stretch for them to be running DC Studios, and it's not really kind of much of a change, but it's interesting. So according to Boris Kitt from the Hollywood Reporter, one of the ideas is a total reboot, and maybe even using someone like Jason Momoa as a different DC character in this new franchise, which we were kind of talking about a few weeks ago. So, but reboot is not their only plan. They're still kind of in flux, according to Boris Kitt, where they've got an idea of keeping the things that are going on right now, keeping this universe, and changing things up a little bit. So they're thinking of a lot of things. Now, Once Henry Cavill agreed to be in the Black Adam post-credit scene, apparently there were plans for a Man of Steel direct sequel before Peter Safran and James Gunn came in. Now that's very curious. This is what I think, everyone. I think that they were going to have $7. Zaslav wanted $7 to run DC Studios with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I believe this is why The Rock kept on talking about Black Adam as phase 1 of the DC of DC. It's even as if he thought he was getting the keys to DC. Now, if you remember back to the marketing of Black Adam, it did sound like he did have the keys to DC, and he was talking like he was gonna be running the Black Adam universe at the very least. So what went wrong? What changed? Well, obviously what went wrong was the box office. The Black Adam box office was terrible, the reviews were terrible, and Henry Cavill was clearly only put in that post-credit scene to save the movie, and it didn't work. I think Zaslav, in his ultimate wisdom, thought, well, this isn't working. I can't have this man, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, running things. He's put his people in charge of Black Adam, and it's an absolute disaster. And then he probably thought, well, Henry Cavill's in this movie, and it hasn't made any extra money. He hasn't uplifted the movie. So maybe Henry Cavill isn't the right thing going forward. Maybe we need a complete change. I think he turned totally north and decided to bring in Peter Safran and James Gunn, who were already at the studio anyway. Let's make that clear. Because how did Boris Kitt from The Hollywood Reporter get hold of all of this information? Well, one DC fan and one smart cookie has a theory that maybe it was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and $7 that leaked this information to Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter. And I'm saying that that's probably true because we were all celebrating how James Gunn all of a sudden had hold of the DC narrative and there were no leaks and rumours. All of a sudden, Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter has multiple rumours and multiple theories about what could happen. But the truth of the matter is, we really don't know what's going to happen because it seems like the whole DC universe is in flux and they haven't indeed decided what direction they're going to go in. But it does look to me that there is a civil war between the $7, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's company, and James Gunn and Peter Safran, all of them tugging at each other to win power over at DC. So what a collateral mess this is. And then you've got James Gunn constantly teasing, constantly posting pictures saying that he's making plans, teasing something that he hasn't even pitched to the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery yet. Again, what a mess. Why would you do that? Well, he wants us, the fans, on his side. And so he's been kind of, I suppose, platforming like a politician would do to win your vote. And I think this is what he's been doing. So by the time he does pitch his idea, his plan of one story through multiple platforms, film, TV, animation, and gaming, once he does do that, he'll say, the fans are on my side. This is what the consumer wants. So you've got to greenlight it. But imagine if his pitch gets rejected. What happens then? Do they go back to The Rock? What do they do? Nothing seems secure. Nothing seems safe. So what Boris has actually told us is very interesting. Originally, a Man of Steel 2. We were literally going to go, I think, continue with the DCEU in a way, which was a dumb idea anyway, but they were going to do a Man of Steel 2. So that's interesting. And they were going to do apparently a Justice League 2 as well. And, you know, I think that was $7 and The Rock behind all of that. Now, would $7 have brought back Zack Snyder? That's another interesting situation. We'll never know. Listen, $7 would never have been the right people to run a DC franchise. Never. When I look at the mess of Black Adam, even though I enjoyed the movie, as a film, it doesn't work as a movie. It was rushed. It was cut to pieces. Maybe that was the studio and not them. It looks stunning. The VFX is great. You can't complain about the VFX, but as a film itself, it doesn't really work, and I think this is why critics didn't like the movie. So you've got a bit of a mess here right now where they don't seem to know what they're doing, because before all of this, James Gunn seemed very sure that his plan was going to happen. He was boasting about his plan. DC fans were shilling him. And all of a sudden, nothing seems secure anymore. So it's a very, very weird situation. Will they reboot? Will they stay as they are? Apparently, they've shot a scene of Henry Cavill in the Flash movie, and now they're not sure whether they'll use it or not. That's interesting. And I think this uncertainty has come since the box office of Black Adam. And I said this weeks ago as well. I mean, this is a brilliant day for me. Not brilliant for us DC fans in general, but a brilliant day for me because all the stuff I've been saying has come to pass. I don't want to have a brilliant day where I'm proven right, but at least people know that I've got information and I know what I'm saying. So I said that they were intimidated by the lack of uplift of the box office when Henry Cavill was in the post-credit scene of Black Adam. They were concerned about the box office of Black Adam. David Zaslav went into a financial call and lied that he was happy about Black Adam. Clearly he's lying. Otherwise, there wouldn't be this situation going on. You've got one huge publication in Variety saying that the movie lost $100 million. You've got another publication saying it made $50 million profit. So who's telling the truth here? Well, clearly, one platform, one publication is working for someone who's trying to tank what The Rock's attempting to do. And clearly the other publication is working with The Rock to try and tell the fans, no, we made profit, we're doing well, we should continue. So it's clear that both sides are trying to garner our opinions somehow and try and control the narrative. So we're just going back to the old Ann Sarnoff, Toby Emmerich versus AT&T and Zack Snyder scenario, aren't we? So it's not just a bit of a mess, it's a whole of a mess. Of course, James Gunn has gone very, very quiet. One or two things will happen there. He and Zaslav are planning to say something with an official thing. He'll probably post it himself like he did to the reaction of Release the Haircut and bring back Legends of Tomorrow, where he basically said, yeah, well, you never know, but we're focusing on our new plans. In other ways, his response was, up yours, never going to happen, but I'm just being polite. That's how it came across to me. So maybe there'll be some official response because the shit has hit the fans about this article. And clearly, Boris Kittle, the Hollywood Reporter, has got his information from somewhere. So there's all this stuff going on now. Some people are angry that apparently James Gunn and Peter Safran want to reboot everything. But how can they reboot everything but do a Peacemaker 2? So it looks like a kind of mini, mid reboot, but James Gunn will keep his stuff. And I think we would have got clues about this when we saw the Suicide Squad film by James Gunn, where he literally killed off most of David Ayer's Suicide Squad characters, only kept Harley because she's Harley and she's a woman, right? And kept his new characters, uplifted his new characters, and got rid of great characters like Captain Boomerang, played by Jay Courtney. Brilliant in the first movie, Jay was, as this character, and loved him. In a little bit, we saw him in the second movie. And of course, you know, he killed all of those characters off, and it was a shame, and it should never have happened. But this is the ruthlessness, isn't it? So now we have this situation where we really don't know what's going on, whether the Gunn plan will be green-lit, but we do know one thing for sure. Wonder Woman 3 has been rejected. We should discuss that a little bit. I did a video yesterday. This is how on the button I am. Should Patty Jenkins get Wonder Woman 3? And I said if these were serious people, they would reject her script and reject her like everybody else in Hollywood has since Wonder Woman 84. So this decision to reject this Wonder Woman 3 script by Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns is absolutely the right decision in my view, and nobody should be upset about that. Now, clearly, rumours of maybe recasting Gal Gadot Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck has upset a lot of people, especially Snyder fans, but I think DC stands in general because everybody likes those castings. Now, probably we thought anyway Ben Affleck wouldn't be coming back as Batman, so it's not a major issue. Sad, but not a major issue because we kind of saw that coming. But, you know, recasting everyone, that's a huge dive. Now, I am actually going to be controversial and say I think this is the right move to start totally again. But we know he's developing a Peacemaker too, so he's not planning to start all over again. So he would be recasting, if we believe what Boris Kitt is saying, a lot of the other actors, but not his actors. His actors would get to stay. Jason Momoa, who's got a great friendship with Peter Safran, the co-chair alongside James Gunn of the newly formed DC Studios, would stay as another character. So some people would stay, some people would go. And could Peacemaker 2 kind of reaffirm itself as part of the new universe, a rebooted universe? I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. It seems to me that Zaslav doesn't know which way to turn here, and I think the appointment of James Gunn and Peter Safran as co-chairs of DC Studios was a sudden thing. So we are in an absolute mess where nobody knows what's going on. Now, personally, I don't mind them being undecided. I don't mind things being in flux. What I do mind is, and what I pre-warned about, was James Gunn talking too much on social media about his plan like it was cemented in stone. Talking about a plan he hadn't even pitched yet. Henry Cavill coming on Instagram and saying, I'm back as Superman, when clearly you're not. Now, this is interesting because I think that when that movie was just released, Gunn and Safran hadn't been announced as co-chairs of DC Studios. So I think the plan then was, according to Boris Kitt at least, that he was coming back and a sequel was happening. All of a sudden, James Gunn and Peter Safran come into the mix. That doesn't seem to be happening anymore. And let's be clear, James Gunn isn't a huge Superman fan anyway. I mean, you've probably got more chance of seeing Bat-Mite than Superman and Batman movies, which is very, very concerning, although it looks like Matt Reeves' vision for his Batman universe continues. So it's all a bit of a mess. Do you want a reboot? Do you think an interconnected universe is still going to work, or do you want individual movies? Personally, my mind is just like, I don't know what's going to work anymore. I warned you about these red flags for weeks now. I told you this was a very uncertain future. I've done a couple of videos in the past couple of days having doubts over James Gunn's leadership. You've seen the kind of films he makes. He is a one-trick pony. He's good at what he does, and I respect him for what he does. But ultimately, is that the kind of DC live-action franchise you want? Is this the right move? Is this the right person? And what's going on? And who leaked all this news to Boris Kitt of The Hollywood Reporter? I definitely think it's clear that it was The Rock and his production company, because they're vying for power as well. If I'm going to be honest, I don't think James Gunn and Peter Safran or $7 and The Rock are the right people to run DC. But if I had a choice, it definitely would be James Gunn and Peter Safran, who at least would have an idea of what they're doing. You know, because I've seen James Gunn movies and I know they're pretty good and entertaining. I've seen Black Adam's production company put, I'll say that again. I've seen The Rock's production company put Black Adam together, and I'm not all that impressed with the results of that movie. So really the last thing I want is The Rock coming in and taking charge. The thing is here, if you want Henry Cavill to remain as Superman, you're going to be Team Rock. That's the thing here, because he's fighting for himself and Henry's Superman to remain in the franchise. And it's clear that's not what James Gunn and Peter Safran want. So that's the civil war. So it depends what side you're on here. Do you want Henry to remain? If you do, then you don't want Gunn to continue, and you want The Rock and his production company, $7, to win this power struggle. But with most kind of situations where one person's pulling and the other person's pulling to the other direction, no one's going to win this war. And the only people who really lose are us DC fans. It's clear neither of these people in this tug-of-war battle are the right people to run DC, but don't hashtag fire James Gunn. Don't blame James Gunn. Don't blame The Rock. There's only one person to blame here, and that's David Zaslav. David Zaslav is clearly not the man we thought he was, and this seems like a catastrophe because he clearly was going to go one way with a Justice League 2, a Man of Steel 2, with The Rock and his production company, and then as soon as he saw the box office for Black Adam, he just like changed, like a woman trying to, decide what wedding dress to wear. Should it be this one? Should it be that one? He just flipped. And 1 minute he was with them, and then he went with James Gunn and Peter Safran, who literally want to start again, mostly. It's difficult for me because I think the best thing if you're a DC fan, for DC in general, is a total clean reboot. But it's James Gunn and Peter Safran the people to do it. I have no idea at this point. I definitely don't think The Rock and $7 are the right people. But as I say, if you want Henry and Gal and all of these actors to remain, then you're going to be Team Rock. What happens? How this solidifies itself? I don't know. But the facts of the matter are these, that James Gunn and Peter Safran are the co-chairs of DC Studios. But will James Gunn's pitch be greenlit by Zaslav? Because if it's not, we are back to one hell of a mess at DC. As I said to you the other day, I titled a video the other day, didn't I? And I was spot on. And as usual, didn't get many views. And isn't it interesting? A guy who got 26 views on his last video has been right about everything. I told you in my video the other day, nothing has changed at WB and DC, and I have been proven to be right. This has been Movies TV Mad with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.